So I'm delighted to welcome Sumathi Menon to the next episode of the UKAI podcast. Sumathi, it's great to have you here. I'm really looking forward to finding out more about you and your business. So could you start off by maybe introducing yourself and telling us a bit about your background and your company?
Yes, thank you, Tim, for having me and UKAI. I'm Sumathi Menon. I'm the founder of Mave Social AI. We were a digital marketing firm before. My main focus is really bringing AI into the fold for small, medium enterprises by automation, by providing affordable solutions that they can use to integrate AI into their workflow. It's easy for them to get on to that now, and I also provide literacy, so Gen AI training, corporate, as well as to a set of people I call curious non-corporates who are not part of the corporate bubble, and a lot of women, a lot of moms who have left the corporate workforce. So I do training for them. And I'm also the UK lead for Women Defining AI. It's a collective based out of the US. It's not for profit. And we believe in moving women and non-binary people from being users of AI to builders of AI. So that's me.
Wow, it sounds like a very busy kind of portfolio of work you've got there.
Very interesting as well. Yeah.
So I'd like to dive into some of that work you're doing in the consultancy and the transformation space, because that sounds really interesting. And one of the phrases you used there, I think, was curious non-corporates. So could you maybe expand on who are they and why you identify them as being the sort of really key people and what their role is within this building of the AI conversation?
So I am myself a mom to two teenagers at the moment, and I've had a flourishing career in financial services. I was managing director principal at Bear Stearns when I left that job, and I took a career break to look after my kids. And I know how, if you leave your career, if you leave your corporate world, you are at risk of not moving with technology times. And we're talking about 15, 20 years ago. Now, the pace at which technology is moving is exponential. So my curious non-corporates are people who are not part of the normal tech corporate bubble. They are moms, they are founders, they are freelancers, they are trustees, they are people who are not going into the office every day and therefore not being trained or using AI-based products, which a CEO or somebody has decided that we're going to train everyone on that. So I want these people, especially the moms and women, to move with the times. Otherwise, I worry that they'll be written out of the AI-fueled future.
Okay, great. So I really like that concept there. The word curiosity, I think, is really important. It's something that when you've been in webinars and roundtables, we've often sort of talked about that as well, that there's a need with the way that technology is accelerating so quickly. You just have to be able to stay up with it. Mm-hmm. And the only way you can do that is by being constantly curious. Yeah. Just, and it's about trying things, it's about reading things, learning things, and just being able to do that. So combined with that, though, you also need to have a bit of confidence mm-hmm. to do that, because it's one thing to be reading about the thing, but then to want to go and apply them, you need to have just that ability to know how to do it. I'm conscious that that's one of the things that probably people coming back into work, and particularly if they've been out of the loop for a while, they might struggle with that confidence. And I've seen that with some people I've worked with, or friends who've gone back into that same sort of role. So how do you balance the curiosity and the confidence in that way?
Yeah, absolutely. So the workshops that I design and the learning, and also microlearning is a big part of Women Defining AI. So what it really means is you get your hands dirty. I find that most people think of AI as binary. It's either an angel or a devil. Here's the secret, it's neither, right? It's layers of grays in between. So until and unless you actually apply yourself, you use it, you maybe build with it, you use it to like drill down and use it to its fullest extent, you don't know its knowledge, its power, or its limitations, right? So, and the other thing that's useful is your own knowledge of how things work. That's why people who are experts are the best users of AI, because they know what good looks like, right? So when AI gives you an output, you know whether it's good or not, and you know therefore whether you should trust this aspect of AI or not, right? You are informed to make that decision. So that gives you confidence as well. So it's a balance. You dive in, you learn. So my workshops and the learning that we do is there's a lot of hands-on work in there.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I love that idea that actually you are almost reflecting to the person that they're an expert in the things which only they can know as a human with their human experience. And then the machine, the Gen AI tool or whatever they're using, helps them to get there faster, but it still needs their human expertise, their human authenticity to be able to do that. So I love that concept. But also what you were saying there about the sort of binary approach, I definitely see that. It used to be, you know, with things like Excel, people would say, oh, I can't use Excel. You know, it was just like a complicated thing, and they just would reject all of it. And now I'm hearing the same thing with AI. People saying, oh, I just can't get my head around AI. I think the difference is now that the natural language, now you can speak in natural language to AI, now you can actually speak to it. And now with you're getting more and more agents that are able to sort of help you out. It's just making it the barrier to start so much lower, so much easier.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's actually another reason why small medium enterprises should actually get onto AI right now, because 2 years ago we were in the challenge era of AI for small medium enterprises because it was expensive. There were these bulky platforms, whereas now there are hundreds of vendors, hundreds of tools. It's accessible era of AI for small and medium enterprises at the moment. It's not the prerogative of the big corporates. So yeah, dive in is basically my motto.
Yeah, no, and part of that it is also a challenge though, right? Because there are so many tools out there, and there are so many different. If you type in, you know, I want an HR tool or I want a marketing tool, there's thousands of those out there, and that often means that people feel quite overwhelmed. They don't know where to start. But I think, you know, again, building on this point you've been making, it's that sort of curiosity and confidence thing, isn't it? That you have to go out there and look at them and spend some time and enjoy looking at them, and then you have to test them and have the confidence to be able to try them out and test them, and know that a few of them are going to maybe not work, but then you'll learn from those, and it's okay for them not to work. You were talking about some small businesses as well, so I wanted to sort of look at that, because I think there's a really sort of big challenge for small businesses. On top of that, feeling overwhelmed with all of the different options, small businesses by the definition have much more limited resources. So some of our members, and I talk to bigger companies as well, they've got the resources where they have teams they can put in place. So they're thinking from a top down, and they've got kind of AI departments, and we think about it. And then I also talk to smaller businesses where they're just founders, and literally it's like 2 or 3 people, and they don't have time to be taking the time out to plan or to think about the resources, or even to do that test and learn we were just talking about. So what's your advice for those smaller sized businesses for how they can get started, and what have you learned about how to make it effective?
Yeah, it's quite interesting. Just last week, I did a workshop for SMEs in Warwick, University of Warwick, and it was only an hour's workshop, and we had about 25, 30 attendees, and they were surprised, and they were quite impressed with how much they had learned in that 1 hour. So my biggest sort of advice on SMEs and how to get into is like, just get onto the literacy bit first, like get a training, learn, go to maybe like an in-person workshop or somewhere. No, there are lots of video tutorials available, but nothing like being in front of someone who can show you. So that's number one. Number two is really get an AI policy put together. If you're slightly bigger and you have a team, do an AI policy, which includes an AI assessment and a policy that will make sure that your employees feel confident that they can start delving into AI. Chances are they're doing it anyway, and without you knowing what's happening. So it's best to have an AI policy just so that you give them that freedom and you ring fence what they can experiment with and what they cannot experiment with. And that will give them the sort of the confidence, like we were talking, to go and experiment within that framework, right? And then I would say, look at your, that's why an AI assessment, that's another thing that we do. You do an AI assessment, AI readiness assessment, and you see which part of your workflow can be easily automated, right? And to bring in that efficiency. So you pick a small part, you introduce a tool, you go with it, you evaluate it, you refine it, and fourth and most importantly, if you think that didn't work, pull it back, right? There's no reason to stick with it just because you've picked a small part and it didn't work. That's okay. You can look at something else. You can come back to it. It's not high investment. It's not high. You haven't wasted a lot of resources. You have learned a lot. Like you said, Tim, you learn a lot by doing something. You learn why it didn't work. Maybe the underlying data is not right. Maybe the process is not ready to be automated. So lots of reasons, right? So I think pick a small piece, learn about it, pick a small piece, test it, and decide how to scale.
Yeah. I really like the idea there of giving people permission as well. So when you were talking about the policy,
yeah,
I think you're right. That is really important because often people are sort of kind of quite risk averse, but also quite nervous about doing something because they think that they're going to create a bad result and then get told off for it, right? So, when we talk about making these mistakes and learning from failures, I mean, it's fine to talk about it in theory, but it's hard in practice because of that reason. But actually, if you set out a policy where you actually say some of these things, like, it's okay to fail, and this is how we learn, and this is what the company believes in, it signals then to your employees and to those teams that it's okay, that's part of the culture. And although it seems like a very common sense thing, it's so important just to make sure that it's right.
Yeah, exactly. You're absolutely right. I think for me, most important would be starting with a policy. And so when we start with a client, we look at an AI readiness assessment tool that I've just built a proper tool now on a weekend lovable hackathon. They gave it free, so I built one. And it's quite interesting. You go through a certain questions, and then it tells you at the end of it where you are and what aspect of your business you need to improve in order to be ready to sort of introduce AI into your business, right? And that gives them like you said, the agency to the employees to experiment and build with AI.
Yeah, love that you built that in a weekend. That's awesome. And I think that is the sort of the opportunity there is kind of how do you empower your employees, because a lot of these challenges are human challenges. All the things we've been talking about, the curiosity, the confidence, they're human characteristics that we need to think about. We often get kind of blinded by the exciting shininess of AI and the technology, but actually the problems we need to overcome are those human ones. I wonder whether you could share a few examples of how your training has actually helped businesses to deliver results or productivity, or can you give a few case studies that help us bring that alive?
Yeah. So I can give you an example of how it has helped my business itself, where this workshop I was talking to you about, which was last week with the small medium enterprises, I got a spreadsheet with all the attendees, but it only had their email addresses, names, and their industry. So I automated that process where I took the email address, went to LinkedIn, the process went to LinkedIn, and it scored everybody's AI expertise. Okay, at the end of it, I got a lot of charts, which basically showed what's the percentage of people who are just AI aware, AI, no AI background, AI expert, AI, champion. So I had all these categories. So I knew how to pitch my workshop. I also got to know how many of them are small businesses, how many of them have how many people, how many are large. I got what industry they were from. So I could actually walk into that with full knowledge of my audience, right? So that's just a small example. So you can extrapolate and see what all it could do for your business, right? Your leads, you go into any meeting, you could have your AI do your background work, give you conversation starters, give you what has happened. It can search online and tell you what all has been happening with that business in the last week. So it's hugely powerful. Another example is I know a business where they do online lessons, and so they basically save an hour a day by taking all the material, putting into ChatGPT. There's no worry about data risk and things like that. So they put it into ChatGPT, create a bulleted 10-point list, which they show when they're conducting the lesson. And then at the end of the lesson, the ChatGPT also has helped them come up with like 25 multiple choice questions with answers at the bottom, which they show at the end of the lesson, knowing fully well how well people have understood. And that saved an hour, 20 minutes every day for them. So giving them back 10 hours a week for just this small, not even an automation, just a process that they follow using AI. My other workshop attendees find it extremely useful to use ChatGPT voice mode. They create emails when they are doing commute. The children revise for the exams.
Yeah.
My daughter does it as well. So, hey, ChatGPT, my daughter's doing year 8 biology in, plant anatomy. Can you give me questions, quiz in a quiz format? And it'll quiz them. So it's great. The uses that they have is huge.
Yeah. Oh, there's some great examples there, and that's what we're now starting to see, is that more companies are being founded on those specific types of use cases within education or within productivity, to be able to then take that and to make it into a service level, then they can offer to businesses. So yeah, some really good examples there. So you mentioned also you're very involved with women defining AI, and we've talked a lot about this in some of the roundtables that you come along to as well. So I wanted to ask you, what makes gender equity in AI so important from your perspective, and why is it such a critical priority right now?
Well, so we have lots of examples of how lack of women in the decision-making tables has resulted in lopsided world for us, for women, and everyone in that matter. Right from clinical trials, there are multiple examples. Car safety, for instance, where women's anatomy is not taken into account. A small man's body is used for crash testing. So there are stats that more women get seriously injured if they are in a similar type of accident, right? Because of clinical trials, the dosage is never right for women. The less funding for women's reproductive health, because it's obviously your clinical trial is not going to be easy to do, because women have hormonal fluctuations. So they just remove them from the clinical trials, right? So right now we have the power of hindsight, that what happens when women are not involved in the decision making, right? So AI, as we know, is changing every aspect of our life. It's changing healthcare, it's changing transportation, it's changing recruitment. I'll give an example. On ChatGPT, I have a niece who has a name which is not very clearly male or female. You cannot make out. So I put her resume on ChatGPT and said, can you give me what are the career prospects for her? And then I created another one saying for him, and the results were night and day. She is firmly junior. I have examples. I can show you the printout, the screenshot. She is firmly junior. He should aspire to be editor. I mean, unbelievable, right? So if you're not open to this idea, you will not think anything is wrong. Only when you involve women, only when women who are looking at it with the lens of bias, is there any bias? Only then we will be able to uncover it and fix it, right? So only 22% of the women at the moment are in AI. Only 22% of the total population is women in AI. So we want to make sure that there are more women builders, and there is a momentum at the moment, and I'm very heartened that whenever I go, I see a lot more women coming to all these meetings. So I think it's great. I think we should build on this momentum, and this is the right time. And we should stop framing it as a STEM subject, stop framing it as a technology subject, because that somehow makes women take a back seat. Prompt engineering, for instance, that's one of my favorite things to say. Prompt engineering, there's no engineering to it. You know, if you called it prompting, or if you called it prompt crafting, more people will come to it. There is no engineering to it. It's a logical process that you do, right? I met someone who worked in cybersecurity for the national cybersecurity, and he said they had an increase in number of women applying for the jobs just by asking LLM's help in making sure that their job description is turned or is revised in such a way that more women will apply. And they saw huge difference, huge uptake. So it's just things like this that we need to do, and it's urgent.
Wow, absolutely. That was great. I think there's so many things there which, you're right, are urgent and of critical importance. I think that's fascinating, that example you gave there about the language which is used within job advertisements.
Yeah.
How it can be so powerful in either making women want to apply or not, which are the big problem we have. And sort of, as you've touched upon in a number of ways, if you have women in those positions of leadership, they will spot it because that's their lived experience, and they can understand because they've been the subject of bias and not having that representation. So they will spot it, and it's important. But if you don't have the women in their leadership positions or management positions, they're not going to spot it because they're not there, and then the situation perpetuates. And that gets magnified as well when you look at the actual AI systems themselves, which are often created by all male teams. And I think the statistic you mentioned, it's similar to the one that Baroness Fox, Leigh Fox, when she came in a couple of months ago, she mentioned that over her 20 years, she was the best because it's gone backwards. The amount of women in tech leadership roles has gone back from what it was 20 years ago, something like 20% to something like 15%. Specifically within the AI industry, it's already low. It's like under 14, under 12%. So it's even worse.
Leadership,
So it's kind of urgent for all the reasons, but it's not just a nice to have. It's actually critically important for some of these commercial reasons, because unless we get this right, one, the industry isn't going to be representative, so we're not going to be able to understand what our consumers want. But also, we're just missing out on so much talent that's out there that, as you say, is being put off because they think it's, well, whatever the reasons are, we need to understand them and then try and engage with them. So thank you for the work you're doing with women defining. I'm looking forward to sort of working with you and the rest of the team to try and make sure that UK AI puts our sort of resources behind what we're doing to sort of really get try and move this and change this.
Yeah, no, thank you for all the support, and I think the roundtables make a big difference as well. And I'm really happy that there is a lot more women who come to the roundtable conferences as well that you organize, which is great. I think we have the momentum. We need to ride it.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll definitely come back and explore a bit more about that over the next couple of weeks. I know there's all sorts of things happening in the background that maybe we'll come back and do another webinar with you and some of your other colleagues in a couple of weeks once we've actually got a bit more to announce around what we're doing there. But just going back to sort of broad AI, what do you think are the big risks in the way that AI is being adopted, and what do you think needs to be shifted and changed?
Okay, so the biggest risk is like I said earlier, to think that AI is black or white, right? So thinking that the first output from AI is the output is the biggest mistake. Like, I'm talking about Gen AI this time. So when you're using Gen AI, you have to make sure you drill it down, and you have to make sure that you get the answer that you want, right? Like, one of the examples I give is, if you go into Google Map and just type London Road, there are hundreds of London Road, or Prince of Wales Road, or whatever it's called, right? There are hundreds of them. So you need to give a little bit more guidance. You need to sort of say that which location you're looking for that London road in. Is it in London? Is it in Cardiff? Is it wherever, right? So you need to be more intentional. You need to, so again, I come back to literacy. You need to learn that one of the risks is people just doing a simple course and then just or just logging into ChatGPT and taking, or Googling and taking the AI overview as the best answer, right? AI overview in Google is typically the top websites summary, right? Which may or may not be the right one, because you would never just click on the first Google and say that's the answer for what, that's the solution you're looking for. So that's risk. Another, obviously, the biggest risk is really the data and the privacy, and the whole issue with deep fake and all that thing. So the governance needs to catch up, the policy needs to catch up, and that's why I like all the work that UKAI is doing. And I'm so honored to be part of this process where we are impacting, where we are influencing the policy that is being made. And I'm really glad there are lots of women who are involved in it, lots of diverse population. We had the young people's input. So all that is great, because we need policy to catch up. We need to get all the different voices. We need to understand how AI impacts every diverse population, and how governance can help, and how governance cannot help in certain cases, right? Lots of people will do GDPR, will not care about GDPR until they are fined, right? There are cases of that. So AI governance should not be something like that. There has to be real consequences for not doing that. So those are some of the risks that I see in being adopted.
Yeah, thank you. And I think it's really important to balance those two things you mentioned there. So you've got the governance and the regulation, which is, as you say, people often don't think about them until they make a mistake or they get fined. Yeah. But then there's also the sort of incentive, which is trying to make people do the right thing because there's either a commercial incentive or some other incentive. And that's just maybe the difference with those risks you highlighted around AI, is that they're sort of, well, sometimes they're bigger. That the risks to society from AI are bigger, they're going to impact upon more people in more personal, but also more societal ways. Whereas GDPR was really just about data, so quite sort of specific. And so, yeah, I can see why that one had to be regulated in that way. But this is so much bigger. This is why the whole industry really needs to take it seriously and could be working together and trying to sort of fit together.
Absolutely.
Amazing. Well, listen, we've covered so much. I know we could talk for probably another half an hour about all these topics, but we're going to have to start to wrap things up there a little bit. So I wonder if I could get you just to sort of tell us what you think is the thing you're most excited about that you're seeing at the moment happening in AI, whether that's kind of a piece of technology, or the way the technology is being adapted, or the way people are using it. What's the thing that's exciting you the most at the moment?
So the thing that I'm most excited about is how I can do so many things that used to be mundane so fast. I remember I've been in technology. I've been working for many years, many decades now. So I remember the times of Visio where I used to make diagrams. I remember the times of PowerPoint where you had to pick everything and align it. And like I used to be, oh my God, I'm an MBA, and all I did all day today was get this deck to work, to align it, and because obviously you don't want to present something that's not looking perfect, right? But now, if anyone's used Gamma.app, and I'm not getting paid for saying its name, that you can cut and paste your text, and you can get beautiful presentation in seconds, right? So you don't need, you can either use it as is, or you can customize it to your theme. There's so many things. You don't ever have to start with a blank page anymore for any writing, right? You can always get a first draft. And again, going back to the risk that we discussed, that do not take that and use that as your final product. Please. Always check the output. Always make sure that it is otherwise we'll get into this, snake eating its tail. AI will be consuming all AI generated text and it will lead to nothing, basically. So yeah. So I'm excited about these little efficiencies in our everyday life.
Fantastic. Yeah. And what you're mentioning there about ensuring that it lives up to that quality, I think it's consistent with the point we were talking about right at the beginning, where humans are still very important. So yes, you can get it to create these beautiful slides, but unless you knew from having made those beautiful slides over the last few years what beautiful slides look like, then you wouldn't know to be able to say, oh yeah, that's okay. And you know, someone coming like straight out of university might have a lower expectation of what a beautiful slide looks like. So there's areas there where that expertise is important to be able to evaluate. But yeah, lots of great ideas there. So one last question then, which is, how can we find out more about Mave and Women Defining AI and keep in touch?
Yeah, so Mave, our website is www.mavesocialai.com. So please come and connect with us. There are a few games you can play on there. You can just give in your email address and LinkedIn profile, and you get a really interesting email back with all some exciting information that we have been able to take from your LinkedIn profile. If that doesn't talk to you in the right way, then go change your LinkedIn profile, because that's what everyone sees, right? So that's my website, Women Defining AI. If you're a woman or a non-binary person, please come and join us. It's not expensive. It's about $100 a year, and you get a lot for that. You get a lot of microlearning modules. You can learn from what is Gen AI to how do I build an AI agent, all free, and it's done in cohort-based or self-paced learning. So please come and find us. We are fielding about 12 or 15 teams to the Bolt Hackathon, and I have a project that's coming that's going for that as well. So we do lots of collective learning and experimentation.
Amazing. That sounds fascinating. So yeah, definitely some good resources there to go and check out. So I hope people will kind of log on and get involved with that. And I'm looking forward to working with you more in the future as well to see what we can do together. So Sumathi, it's been wonderful to chat to you today. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Tim. Thank you.